In this podcast episode, actress Hayden Panettiere shares her deeply personal journey and insights into her life and career. She opens up about the complexities of growing up in the entertainment industry, struggling with mental health challenges, including postpartum depression and addiction, navigating fame and Hollywood pressures, enduring abusive relationships, dealing with custody battles, and coping with the tragic loss of her brother. Hayden's candid reflections reveal the human experiences behind public headlines and shed light on the resilience needed to reclaim one's life and identity. Hayden reflects on her childhood experiences and the loss of a normal upbringing due to her early entry into acting. While she did get glimpses of a typical childhood, such as participating in swim team and gymnastics, her life was largely dominated by auditions, work, and the isolation from peers. The social dynamics were challenging, especially as classmates and even teachers expressed resentment or misunderstanding toward her career and the privileges it seemed to bring. The absence of normal friendships and social experiences shaped a persistent feeling of not belonging and created a tension between two worlds, the acting industry and conventional childhood, between which she struggled to navigate. She recalls specific painful incidents, such as being bullied by a kindergarten teacher, and how those experiences sowed early seeds of insecurity and alienation. Hayden's relationship with her mother was intertwined with business, as her mother managed her career from the very beginning. This professional dynamic complicated their personal bond, with Hayden feeling that love and approval were conditional on performance and success. She describes her mother as her boss rather than just a mom, which left her feeling responsible and adult-like from a very young age. At 16, Hayden's mother bought an apartment where the family lived, reinforcing the uncomfortable dynamic of financial support and caregiving roles being reversed. Hayden reveals the painful moment when she asked her mother to step back from managing her career to be simply her mother, only to receive the rebuff, "You owe me," highlighting the transactional nature of their relationship. This deepened her feelings of confusion, guilt, and longing for a more traditional mother-daughter connection. Hayden discusses the complexity of leaning into her acting talent as a form of survival, even as she questioned her personal identity separate from the roles she played. She experienced identity crises from as young as 12 years old, struggling to distinguish herself from the multiple characters she embodied. The pressure to succeed was not only about career, but about securing acceptance, especially from her mother and peers. Fame brought both validation and new challenges, like paparazzi invasions, which she describes as terrifying and invasive to the point of feeling unsafe. Hayden also speaks about the emotional toll of living life for the applause, constantly seeking external validation and concealing vulnerability to maintain composure. This dual existence, public success masking private turmoil, created enduring emotional strain. At 18, Hayden experienced a traumatic event involving coercion into a sexual situation by someone she trusted. This abuse on a boat profoundly affected her psyche and shattered her trust. Despite her life experience and maturity, she recalls feeling vulnerable and powerless in that moment, as well as the betrayal compounded by it being orchestrated by a person she considered a protector. This episode underscores the pervasive vulnerabilities young actors face in the entertainment industry, where trust can be manipulated and safety compromised. Hayden acknowledges the difficulty in discerning whom to trust, but also affirms the presence of loyal, good people who have been her support system over the years. Hayden candidly talks about her struggles with debilitating anxiety and how she turned to alcohol as a form of self-medication. The anxiety was so intense it manifested physically, making her shake and preventing clear thinking, and it worsened postpartum as she battled depression. She describes acting on the TV show Nashville as an intense and sometimes torturous process because the storylines paralleled her own life challenges, forcing her to live the trauma twice, both in reality and on screen. This overlap created an unrelenting day that never ended, leaving no room for emotional decompression or healing. Her use of substances was a desperate attempt to numb pain and find momentary relief, though it ultimately exacerbated her struggles. Becoming a mother was a lifelong dream for Hayden. but the reality of postpartum depression shattered expectations. Deviating from the idealized, joyous motherhood she had envisioned, she found herself disconnected from her daughter and overwhelmed with anxiety and sadness. The stigma and misunderstanding surrounding postpartum depression made it harder for her to seek help openly. Hayden shares how even when she reached out, the focus was often on alcoholism rather than addressing the underlying postpartum depression, leaving her feeling unfixable. Despite the darkness, she credits support from her then-partner Vlad for helping her take steps toward treatment. Hayden emphasizes the complexity and reality of postpartum depression, urging greater compassion and awareness about its impact on mothers. Hayden confronts misconceptions surrounding the custody arrangement of her daughter, explaining the difficult decision for her child to live primarily in Europe with Vlad. This decision was born out of her mental health struggles and the practical necessities of their working lives. She describes it as a heartbreaking situation that involved layered feelings of grief, guilt, and love. Despite physical distance, she maintains a strong, loving relationship with her daughter through frequent communication, visits, and emotional openness. Hayden highlights the importance of nurturing respect and positivity between co-parents for the child's well-being, and expresses hope in the future deepening of her relationship with her daughter as she grows. One of the most powerful parts of Hayden's story is her candid reflection on enduring and eventually escaping an abusive relationship that mirrored patterns from her childhood. She grapples with understanding why she tolerated abuse for so long, recognizing a fear of loneliness that outweighed fear of harm. She describes the cycle of abuse as unpredictable and terrifying, often fueled by alcohol, where moments of violence appeared suddenly and without provocation. Hayden recounts her internal struggle with forgiveness, hoping to change the abuser and reconcile, only to realize the extent of his deceit and betrayal. Her journey to break free was arduous, requiring immense support and a firm decision to end the enabling behavior, highlighting the complexity of abuse and the courage it takes to leave. Throughout her life, Hayden has faced invasive scrutiny and false rumors in the public eye, including questioning over her sobriety and mental health. She talks about the frustration and hurt caused by the media's propensity to simplify or distort the realities of her life, making it harder for others to understand her true experiences. Hayden reflects on the impossibility of controlling public narrative and the loneliness resulting from being misunderstood despite success and visibility. This section underscores the emotional toll of fame and the importance of hearing people's stories in their own words rather than relying on headlines or gossip. Hayden shares the profound heartbreak of losing her younger brother to addiction 3 years prior, describing him as her other half and closest confidant who truly understood her. She talks about the overwhelming grief and feelings of failure in protecting him, as well as the complex emotions involved in watching someone struggle with addiction, similar to challenges she has faced personally. His death left a lasting scar, but she also finds solace in the artwork he left behind and the belief that he continues to protect her spiritually. This loss adds depth to her story of resilience and the ongoing struggle to find peace amid profound pain. On top of everything else, Hayden endured the terrifying experience of being stalked by a mentally unstable man who threatened her safety with violent intentions. The severity of the situation led to involvement from the FBI and Secret Service, adding another layer of fear and disruption to her life. Hayden recounts the extreme anxiety caused by this intrusion and the heavy burden of living under threat, further complicating her process of recovery and healing. The experience exemplifies the dangers public figures sometimes face and the vulnerability they must endure behind the scenes. Despite revisiting many painful and dark moments, Hayden concludes the conversation with a hopeful outlook on the future. She speaks about feeling lighter and more trust in herself after having finally voiced her truths and shaken off past darkness. Although she has not yet named this new chapter of her life, she senses doors opening to new possibilities and expresses excitement about attracting goodness and love. Her resilience, vulnerability, and reflection demonstrate a powerful reclaiming of identity and agency, embodying a spirit ready to embrace life beyond trauma.